All right, great. So, Karen, I am absolutely delighted to be able to invite you uh, to this meeting of the Mobility Monday group. We never know who's going to come and how to either of these two settings, but it's a great pleasure to be able to introduce you. Karen, is a dual TVI O&M, Florida State. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Go Knowles.
And she has developed a model of service provision and built what I referred to in our little note as a powerhouse, because it really is in terms of the provision of services initially in Virginia, I think, and then you've expanded out well beyond that now and are including that up to and including nationally, right? And which is again really impressive and just something that is inspiring to us all. You're the winner of many awards. You've got, and I think there's a few more down the pike coming your way, so we don't want to jump that gun. But it's a really an honor to be able to introduce you to this group, and people may pop in as we go along. Okay, thank you, Karen, for coming. Appreciate it.
Sounds good.
But you have to join too, by the way.
Yeah,
She did.
I didn't mean to do that. You just got to stay on me. First of all, how long do you want me to chit chat for?
Well, we generally go a little bit around an hour or a bit more.
That's what I was guessing, but I wasn't really sure. And I was like, well, I don't want to, bore you guys to tears or anything.
No, that's fine, but there could very well be some questions for you. We've got a really nice group of people here, including Rachel, who's the O&M division chair, Liz Robertson, who's been very active in the Environmental Access Committee and so on and so forth. So it's a nice group.
Can everyone introduce themselves so I do know who I'm talking to, so I'm not like leaning towards children, or one way that I have a tendency to go towards children because I taught O&M to young ones, littles, for so long. So I have a tendency to forget my adult population. I'm sorry if I do that.
I'll just steer. I'll steer from here because I'm just using the order on my screen. I know everybody's different. So Faith, could you start us off, please?
Hello, my name is Faith Dunham Sims. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm a dual comms TVI, presently working in public schools.
And Jamila, I think you're next on my screen.
Yes, my name is Jamila Lane. I am in Ruston, Louisiana currently, and I am a CRC with interest in possibly expanding into business. So thank you.
So you're interested in the business model itself, right? How cool is that?
Yes.
Good. Liz, how about you?
Hi, Liz Robertson. I am in Colorado, and I work for vocational rehabilitation, so with that adult population.
Super. And then next I have Nancy.
Hello, I'm Nancy. I'm a mobility instructor working with adults. I'm in Central New York.
Yeah.
And Rachel.
Hello, I'm Rachel Coleri. As Lucas said, I'm the chair of the AER O&M division. I'm a comms in Spokane, Washington. I work with adults, and I'm an adjunct at Portland State University, and I teach a class on O&M for adults. So I'm really interested in service delivery model trends and options.
And Michael Byington has just joined us. Michael, you're on. Just a brief introduction.
Okay, let's see if I can get unmuted here. Oh, I guess I am. Okay. My name's Michael Byington. I am a semi-retired comms. I practice in Topeka, Kansas. I've worked both with adults and school age during my career. And I still practice on a part-time basis.
And I think there may be other people popping in, and I think what I'll do is as they pop in, I'll send them a note and ask them to introduce themselves in the chat. Okay.
Sounds good. All right. So that helps me really a whole lot to know kind of what you guys might be the most interested in and what I have to say. I have presented several times. Often I've presented on contracting, of course, and I've presented on preschool O&M, which I'm sure y'all won't, but a lot of you working with adults are like, yeah. So I just kind of wanted to get a good rough idea of what you want to know the most. It seems like most people want to know, about contracting and AIS. And I'm happy to answer any questions at any time. If I don't answer them here, you come up with more questions that you need down the road, feel free to always reach out to me. I'll start off, I'll say now my cell phone number, and y'all can take it down. You can also take it down again at the end. I'll repeat it in case anybody comes in later, but my cell phone number is 804-244-2000. And I thought about making up a PowerPoint, but then, I wanted to make sure that it was geared to what you all were looking for. And I kind of needed to know who was coming, and what y'all wanted from me. But so I started, I just sort of go a little bit of history of how I got started. I was a TVI and O&M myself, and I started in the schools as a TVI. And before I was married, I started doing some contract work because, I'm a teacher. In the summers I had off, and I had some extra time. I'm not very good on downtime. And so I started contracting on the side, and I did some work after school, and then at this hospital not too far from me, where it's for children. Well, I can tell you, they brought me in because a student had tried to commit suicide, and he'd shot right through his optic nerve. So I was working with a student there that was blind, was newly blinded, and teaching him all his VI skills and O&M skills. So I was doing all that. And then I had my first, let me think, try to remember the order of how it went. No, I started contracting as soon as I had my first child. So I had my first child, and I wanted to stay home, thought I was going to stay home, went to my superintendent. My superintendent laughed at me, and he said, "Oh, you'll be back. You're not one to stay out of the field and be a stay-at-home mom," which I was like, what is that supposed to mean? And but I did. I thought, yeah, I'll just try and work from home. And so I actually started selling assistive technology for a while. So I did that, ended up selling that company because I was just on the road all the time. And I went into just doing my contracting, which I'd continue to do the contracting because I just love working with students. But it did also, selling the equipment got me really to know a lot more about the adult O&M population. I did start working with some adults at that time, but it really got me to also, it's very different working with adults and working with children. So I did a lot more with that. And then I had my oldest child, and she was diagnosed with autism. She's on the Asperger spectrum, and I had to take her to a lot of different therapies. And so I really couldn't work a school division schedule. And I had to be able to take her to school, pick her back up. I could have put her on the little short bus that used to come by, but I didn't. I wanted to, in my opinion, I wanted to take her to school, and she had a really hard time with the separation. So I used to take her to school, and then and she did it later in years, ride the bus, but still I had to be there to put her on the bus and get her back off. It just didn't work with the school schedule. So I continued contracting, and then I became a university internship supervisor for George Mason University, which I still do to this day. So I work with there and train up their TVIs and help them become as best they can be. And if they're really good, then I sort of got to know them and bring them on. And so I was still working in the field, and I would take an intern, bring them on, and sort of expanded that way for a while. And then this, so then the state of Virginia told me, they said to me, Karen, you really need to expand your company. And that went on for like 5 years. And they kept telling me, Karen, you need to expand your company because there are companies out there that are, and I know everyone knows about them today, but at this time I hadn't heard about them. There's these companies out there that are staffing companies that are putting TVIs and O&Ms out there that know nothing about our field. They're just staffing companies. And they said, there's a bid out. And I remember where it was Portsmouth, Virginia, because they showed it to me. And they said, it's in Portsmouth, Virginia. It's actually going to be a work for 6 school districts. You really need to bid on this because we really don't want a staffing agency coming into Virginia. And I'm like, they go, we really think you need to do this, because I'd already sold the equipment and knew I had some business sense about me like that. So they kept saying, to grow it. And I was like, I don't want to grow it. I'm good. I've got my few teachers I've trained up, and I'm working in the field, loving it. Life is great. And then sure enough, a staffing company got it. And I saw what that looked like for those school districts. And it was not the quality of services that I wanted to see in my state of Virginia at the time. And let's just put it that way. It was just like, oh my goodness. At one point, the staffing company put in somebody who was an optometrical assistant. They didn't even realize it until they came to work the first day that the person they brought in to do the job wasn't even a TVI. So, I mean, they really had no clue what they were doing at that time.
I remember that period of time when those companies were coming online and trying to move in. Is that still happening in the country?
Oh, yes. More than ever.
Yeah.
More than ever. So, anyway, so next time one came along, which was Henrico County, bless them. Don't mean to say anything bad about them, but I'll even tell you, for a long time, their vision services were not good. Thankfully, that I can't see that's the case now. They do well. But at the time, and they said, we've got 4 teachers. We really need you to come in and kind of oversee our program, work with us. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I really don't know if I want to do that. And then anyway, through encouragement, I went, okay. And so they go, we're going to put out a bid, and ended up expanding my company. I brought on someone to do, I didn't know business sense. And I still to this day say, I am a teacher of the visually impaired. I'm a teacher at heart that happens to have grown this company into a business that is now huge, but I'm still always a teacher first. That's who I am. That's what I'll always be. I love O&M. I love O&M. I love teaching too, but of the teaching side, I love O&M even more. That's who I'll always be. And then I try to make every teacher that I have, or O&M instructor that I have, is an extension of myself, what I believe in, who I want them to be. I'm not just going to bring on a person that is a warm body to fill a hole. I'm going to interview that person, make sure we share the same philosophies and all that. So anyway, so I ended up growing the company, and we went, at the time that I did that, there was 6 of us, and the next year there was 13. And from there, the company just grew. And this was in 2010 when I decided to make it into a company. And since that time, we now have, so that was in Virginia alone. And now we're in 11 states, and I have approximately 100, just maybe barely over 100 TVI and O&Ms combined. I'm not exactly sure how many of those are TVI, O&M, or duals. I should know that answer right off the top of my head, but I really don't know. But and then what I do is the way we do it to make sure everybody has support, and they aren't just a staffing company. And and this is the difference between a staffing company and AIS, is we a staffing company is just gonna like, they don't even interview somebody. They take somebody, they do have the qualifications. Sometimes they interview them, but they look and they say, do they have the qualifications? And they hold the certification, and they'll put them in a hole, but they don't really know their skills because they can't interview them because they're not a teacher or orientation mobility instructor themselves to know if they know the skills. So they're just looking at this person as, can they do the job? And then that company then that they get a commission off of it, and for finding that placement and whatever. And that's how they work. And that's not at all how we work. Allied Instructional Services is more of an education management company. And so what we do is every person that we bring on, and they're usually contractors. We have people start as contractors. They can move into being a lead, and the leads are employees. But the contractors sort of get to do, they're able to set their own schedules and all that. So what happens, and we don't have both. By law, you can't have a contractor and an employee doing the same position. It's against the law. So it's against contracting law. So all of our people that are, servicing and are out in the field working, they are independent contractors. And therefore, and the difference there is they can set their own schedules. I'm not allowed to pay for them to go to conferences. I'm not allowed to pay for them to be part of the association. I'm not allowed to pay any of their dues and fees. I am not allowed to buy their materials for teaching, or instructing. But that's why when we write our contracts with the school districts pretty much, as they come on board with us, they accept a contract for a school district. And then that school district, they work within that school district's rules, regulations, hours. So they sort of get to set their own schedules and are part of that. So that's the school district or the state agency. We say, like, if it's a state agency, we say we've had a purchase order for someone to see a client, and they accept that client and that many hours and all that. So that's sort of how that works there. It's the difference between contracting and employees. And then over that, and then we have, as I said, we have the leads, and under leads, there's about the equivalent of 10 to 15 full-time people. So somebody may have 20 people under their team, but a lot of those may be part-time. So we sort of add them up, and we try not to have really any more than 15 people under a person. So usually when it's a bunch of part-time, it's only like equivalent of 10 hours. We try not to have someone have more than 15 people underneath them. And the lead is their support person.
Are they regional, or are they distributed under the lead, or is there any geographical constraint?
Regional. They are done regional. So we have and we try to keep every lead within an hour and a half of them. Try within an hour. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. And that way they are in striking distance. So if they run into a problem at an IEP, they need some support, or litigious parent, this is more in the case of TVIs, we see where a school district may be trying to limit their hours, and they'll, I don't know, we just run into different things where the school district's trying to expect them to do more than they could possibly ever do in a day. So we will go in there and work with that school district, because sometimes they say, oh, we're only going to pay you for 7.5 hours a day, but the job clearly is going to take more than 7.5 hours a day, when you have to include all the drive time, report time, writing up functional vision, assessments, all those different things. So, and then with AIS, you get paid for every minute of that. So if you are working after hours as a contractor, that's one of the advantages of being a contractor, is you get paid for all your time. So if you're at home, you're brailing, you're writing reports, if you're an O&M and you're like looking at environment, as long, to stake out for your next lesson, as long as it is in relation to that IEP, you're getting paid for it. You also get paid for your drive time to and from the work sites, because your home is your office. So you get paid from the time you leave till the time you get home. I actually have, and it'll probably help me be a little bit more organized in my thoughts. Because I just found out that I'm not the only, well, I didn't find out, I found this about 2 years ago. I'm not the only O&M instructor's ADD. So I was whenever Soma, as people were coming through, I kept asking people, I said, are you ADD? And it was amazing, the number of people with ADD and O&M.
The
But
entire profession is like that.
It
The guide
is,
dog
it
instructors are even worse.
It is.
It's like herding cats is what it is.
Here, let me go. I'm going to go sort of at the top of my presentation. Some of this I may have already hit on, but this is a presentation I'd use at another one about what you need to do about contracting. And I'll put it up because it's probably especially for you guys and for later when people are looking at it, it will help them to understand. But I'll finish real quick and saying that in this part. So, I don't even know where I was going with it. That's me. I lost train of thought. But I'll start going through my slides. And then if y'all have any questions at the end, this kind of reels everything in together. I'm also not good about staying on a PowerPoint, but I will try my best. All right, can I share this screen? Yeah, share screen. Here we go. Hold on, where'd it go? Nope. Yeah. No, it's not the right one. Yeah, it is.
Here you go.
All right. So how do I make this? Is that the right one that I hit for presentation?
I think if you go up to the top, do slideshow, and then you should be okay.
Top slideshow. Let's see. Where is that?
Right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right, I kind of liked where it was before. Like, can everybody see it? Hold on, slideshow.
From beginning. Oh, do it again.
See, you can see how often I do
All the
these.
way to the left from beginning.
I'm an O&M instructor. I don't take PowerPoints on my
There you
lessons.
go.
Okay. What you need to know about contracting. Advantage of contract. You're able to do the job you love and were hired to do. You serve students in compliance with the IPs or adults in compliance with whatever and usually the most state agencies have said send into us like a purchase order, and that's how we do it with them. There's sometimes we will contract a person out to like the Department for the Blind Visually Impaired will contract one of our people, or the VA hospitals for blocks of time. But most of the stuff we do with adults is done through RFPs. The advantage is you don't have any additional duties or assignments. So you get to go in there and do what you love. A lot of times TVIs and O&Ms find themselves being asked to do lunch duty or bus duty and things like that. You have flexible hours and you're able to set your own schedule because your employer is not able to set your schedule. But sort of, and that's sort of done by the school district and what fits well with the students. But I get people like that want a contract that say, I only want to work 3 days a week. Okay, that's fine. And they pick them, we try to get them to like set their hours as a schedule so it's not moving all around for the school district or for whatever client they have. But they are able to and that's really up to them because again, they're technically self-employed and I'm contracting them to work for me. Things to consider if you contract on your own. Contract negotiations with AIS. We do all the contract negotiations, but then we do have a contract with you. writing legal contracts. You have to acquire a business license. Not everywhere requires business license. You just have to find out what you have to do in your own locality. Billing, accounting, and general districts are not, okay, this is one of the things with AIS. We pay our people out whether or not we receive the money from the school districts and or the agency. There are, I kid you not, there's some that'll be 6 months in delay. You would think they would pay out regularly, but that is not always the case, but we make sure we pay our people out because they've done the job. You do have to file quarterly taxes. That is a big difference. When you work as an employee, your taxes are automatically taken out. As an independent contractor, you are responsible for filing quarterly taxes. It's really not that hard, though. I'm happy if anybody had questions about that to try and show someone how to do that. It's not hard. People often ask, okay, what happens if I'm contracting my student moves? Well, we always have enough work. There's always other places we can move you to. That's the advantage of working with us with so many people, that we do have other places to be able to move people to. And this is another thing that's not on here that's happened since that time. We are doing some, when appropriate, if the O&M is in schools only, we are, and there's no O&M instructor in that area, it's for someone to teach them face to face. That's when we will sometimes put in a remote orientation mobility instructor. It is for O&M. It is not my preference, but it is helping meet the needs with some students that have never received orientation mobility or would not be able to receive it otherwise because they're in such remote areas. So we do have some that will move to that if there just happen to not be, because there definitely are those needs in some places. I did not used to do remote at all, but when COVID happened, I found out that we actually could do some of the things that we do remotely. And I'm happy to go through some of those later if anybody wants to discuss. Bidding, we do all the bids and writing response to proposals. Taxes, as I said, that was sort of before. You do have to file your taxes and all that. Insurance, you have to take out your own insurance, both and make sure AIS does do we do carry a liability insurance. So that covers the main liability insurance, but we do also encourage all of our independent contractors to still take out their own liability insurance and medical insurance. And I tell you, I found something out interesting. I didn't know this for a long time, is that a person that is a contractor is probably the most protected from liability than anybody, because if there is a client, there's some accusation or claim or whatever, the person who is making the claim, when they go to get that to make a claim against somebody, they're going to try and go get it from the policy that has the most money or the most backing, or where they're going to get the most money from. And that's usually not going to be the individual at the end. That's usually going to be the agency, the school district, and that's who the claim would go to first. It goes to whoever was providing that service, which is going to be the agency or school district. And then from there, so that claim would go against them. And then if that didn't settle it, or got pushed down, then it would next go to, in our case, to AIS. And then from us, but by the time it got to the provider, they're more than likely it's already settled. So you're sort of the most protected. Then if you're directly with the school district would go directly, could pass it right along to you. So you're actually more protected, which I didn't know that until I was presenting with a insurance agent and a lawyer, and they were telling me, that's interesting. I never knew that. Workman's comp, someone would need to also obtain, if it's required. So if someone does, goes out and starts contracting on their own, in Virginia and most of the states, it's workman's comp. If it's just you working on your own, you don't need to get workman's comp. If you have one other person in Virginia, you don't have to go workman's comp. But if you have 2 employees, you have to have workman's comp. So that differs from state to state, whether or not you need workman's comp. And then who can transport students if necessary, since you don't usually fall under school district insurances, especially for O&M. That we run into all the time is, it's a big discussion. So whenever we are talking about off-campus orientation mobility, we talk to all of our providers about, and we'll work with, that's what AIS does a lot of, talking to the districts about how we're going to make sure that the student is transported for orientation and mobility purposes, because often the school district's insurance, if they do allow a county car, or an agency has an agency card, they don't usually have insurance to cover people that don't directly work for that school district or that agency. So we have to figure out how that person is going to get be transported for the instruction. So that's something we just work out on a case-by-case basis, depending on what that school district or agency allows. Sometimes they do allow it. So, but then we also have to make sure that our person is comfortable with that, and that our person has the insurance policy, enough insurance to be able to transport in their vehicles. So there's that whole transportation thing is just something that's worked out on a pretty much a case-by-case basis. There have been school districts, of course, that have tried to, they're always concerned about liability, and we've spoken to actual people at the top of the state at DOE, not just for different state DOEs, and they've said it's a denial of faith. The IEP team determines that the student needs off-campus mobility, then they've got to provide for the O&M, to figure out that transportation piece. That's another whole topic we can go on to. I can, how I work with school districts to try and get the off-campus orientation mobility. We've worked with them on that. We've also worked with on trying to, work with them to be able to have our instructors work with our students with like RP at night versus during the day. Those are some other things we run into, which honestly, because we're contracted, we're able to often work those things out with the school districts to be able to do them more at night, or do them more on the weekend or after school than the typical agency or work hours. So that's one of the really good advantages of contracting too, because you really can help your clients when they need it the most, when it's not going to interfere in their daily life or their school. Yeah, advantage of contracting with the company: pick the right company, it could be a nightmare. And especially for the TVIs, as I was saying, they'll try and overload them and trying to get more work done in a day than possibly one person can do. I mean, we've had a school district once, I've had a few, but one of them was like, oh, we're only going to pay for 24 hours. I'm like, you've got 24 hours of service alone if you count up your IEP time. There's no way that we can get it all done and serve your students the way they need to be served. And we will walk away from a school district that is trying to be like I call it a Band-Aid, that I don't ever want to be a Band-Aid to a student. If we're going to serve them, we're going to do it the right way. And if not, it's just going to burn my teachers, my instructors out if if they do not, if they can't teach them and make, I mean, we didn't go into this just to be Band-Aids. We go into our field because we want to make changes and impacts. And when the people we were working for don't understand that, and they're trying to make us run too thin, it's not good for anybody, and it burns people out. That's when I see the greatest burnout. So I tried really hard to protect that and make sure that no one is feeling that way, and to contact me if ever, before that ever becomes an issue. I've had other people from other companies that have called me, and that is a difference with a staffing company, because they don't care. So a staffing company may say, oh, it's we need one person for this school district, when it really may be a 2-person job. But to them, they'll stick that one person in there and kill them if that's just the contract. That's extra money for them. So, and then when that person calls and says, hey, I can't do it all, that person doesn't even know. So when someone with us calls up and says, I can't do it all, first thing we do is we go in there and we look at them. We sit down with their caseload. Are you working as efficiently as you could be? And we'll kind of go through their caseload with them and see, are you traveling from here or there and backtracking, or is it truly too much? And if it is truly too much, we'll go with that person to that agency or school district and say, this, we need to get some extra help here or whatever. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes we look at it and they think they need a full-time person. We go, this is not a full-time job. And they're able to actually reduce some need. Things that a reputable contracting company does for you. They do the billing. We make sure that our people are paid by law. After we receive the money, we have to pay out our subcontractors within 7 days of receipt of receiving the money from from the agency that we receive the money from, which gets really hairy when people are working in multiple districts or from multiple agencies or whatever, because the money comes in at different times and we have to pay it out. Every one of them, doesn't matter, in 7 days. So you may be paying out for one contractor here and one contract there. So that's why now, thankfully, AIS is at a point that we can just pay the people out, whether we've received it or not. And we don't, when you're smaller and you can't pay the person out until you receive the money, it's tough because you're paying bits and pieces out. But now we're thankfully on this rotation where we can just pay everybody out. We can negotiate contracts and write legal contracts. And so if the case numbers drop, we usually have other places to put other people. We do the bidding RFP, and then, as I said earlier, we offer the most legal protection from a lawsuit. If you do consider contracting for another company, because if you're experienced and you know the field and you don't know the support, it's not a horrible thing. If someone has a position out there and you really want to contract for them, I'm not saying you can't go to them, but you just need to know some of the things and to make sure and to know the questions to ask. First of all, like, what's the caseload? How many people is it? Make sure it is coverable. That's sort of a very important thing. Ensure they know the field. Ask them. So things you'll quickly know if they know the field. If you say, so will I have to write FVAs? And if they don't know what FVA is, then you kind of know they probably don't know the field. Ensure that they are education-based, not health-based. So a lot of these companies out there are health-based. They even like Allied Health, Soliant, not meaning to badmouth anybody, but those are they're staffing companies. There are other companies that are vision-based, have TVIs and O&Ms in them. Those are great. I mean, I don't know really Well, no, that's not true. I know one company throughout the US, and I'm not going to badmouth, where the person is running it that is not certified as a VI or O&M. But for the most part, they're really good. Do they have licensed people licensed in the field in the same state to answer legal questions, support you, perform peer review of court, share ideas and best practices? So that's why we try to have local people oversee that region, because we try to make sure that, like, I live in Florida now, but I don't know all the different Florida laws. They are different from Virginia laws. So we have one person that, somebody that oversees. Sarah Bussey, she knows the Florida laws and the Georgia laws. She's my southeast. So person that oversees the whole southeast. And then from there, we break it down. So we have sort of like this level. We have like the providers, we have the providers, and then we have the leads, and then we have the coordinators who are sort of over the leads, and they also have their team as well. So that's sort of how AIS is set up. And we make sure that in each of the regions that the people know the laws of that region. Do they have an HR process to ensure that those you work with are high quality? We interview every person that comes through our door. So, and we make sure that they know the field that they're in. And I didn't mention this earlier, but AIS, in addition to TVI and O&M, we also do OT, PT, speech, deaf and hard of hearing, and school psychology. I don't know any of those other fields very well. So the same structure that I have for vision and O&M, we also have for each of those other divisions. So I have a person who is the coordinator, or actually we have a few coordinators now of like DHH and OT and PT. I stay out of that. I just trust them. I equip them. I'm always like, what do you need? How can I support you? I have to have really good people that I trust to lead it. I try to give them the power to run it like it. I always say to them, it's sort of imagine that this is your own company. How would, what do I need to support you to make it good? So, but that's sort of how we've done that there. And especially in these other areas, there's, it's really important we have a strong HR process. And those people are the ones that they interview each of their own areas. So every OT that is interviewed has an OT on there interviewing them. It's not a O&M person or whatever. Do they have contracts in the area should your caseload get smaller? That's a question to ask them. What is your caseload? And if my caseload got smaller, would I lose my job? That's always an important thing if you are contracting on your own. Can they tell you the current caseloads and needs of the placement that you're being placed at? Make sure it is not a job for two people, not versus just you, which is I've been saying. Do they pay for travel based on time or mileage? This is a biggie, and our contracts with the school districts vary. We always pay our people for travel time to and from the time they're working at the schools, but that may not be how our contract is written with the school district. Most of the time they are, but in some states like Florida, rarely they are. They like an all-inclusive fee, and then they like an all-inclusive fee, and so do like I can't think what it's called. But the schools with students with multiple disabilities, when they're like alternative schools, they like them as one all-inclusive rate. So does Department of Defense schools. They like all one rate where everything's included. So you have to, when we put in a price for them, we have to ensure that we've gotten everything covered for how much we're gonna pay for the person traveling to and from, the time there, that person writing up any reports. Sometimes it doesn't include IEP meetings. In the case with the infant programs, a lot of times it does not. A lot of times they're only paying for the actual time that you're with the student or client. Do they know how to support you if the caseload grows beyond what you can cover? Do they know how to go out and recruit and get other people in? Do they offer continuing education opportunities? AIS we are always doing continuous education opportunities every month. We have monthly meetings, and there are ACV, and they're able to receive ACV REP credits for the monthly in services, which we think is really, really important. So in addition to having, and they also could always, if they have individualized questions, they also have that support person to go to answer their questions as well. That is one of the great things that I love about AIS, is there's always someone to talk to. There's always, we also have these different platforms where people can go on and talk to each other and ask for input, and sort of like immediate input on, like, oh, I got IEP, I get stuck, I don't know what to put here, does anybody help me? We've got these different ways that people can really chat to each other and help each other out. If there's a litigious situation, do they have people that will come in, sit with you at meetings? They're also licensed in the field. With AIS, we come in if it's somewhere where it's a new teacher, they're a little timid, or it's just they just feel like they really need that support of someone else being in there. We'll come and sit in a meeting with you. And also read your contract, make sure you have an out. Any of our people can leave us with 30 days notice. I don't make people sign a full year contract. We rarely lose people. Not saying we don't, but make sure if you do sign into a contract that it is that you have an out in case it's, for whatever reason, it's not working out. And that's sort of, do I have anything else? I think that's it. Then this is just by AIS. This is and I have this is, I'll just go through this quick. This is about AIS. It's your turnkey. This is what we usually put out for like directors. It's a company led by educators. Everybody within AIS has come from educational setting. Even my person who does my accounting and business operations, she was the Medicaid specialist for a school district. We believe in a team approach. So all students have the best opportunities to succeed. As you see, a lot of this, I kind of bend towards school districts, and a lot of these presentations we have were made for directors of special education. So it also stands true for agencies as well. Yeah. All right, why did that one not come in? All right. 10's blank. AIS purpose: to ensure the independence and success of the individuals through specialized programming in a variety of settings. I'm really going through this more because what AIS does. These are the things we do. We also now serve students. This is before then. We also do, as I said, school psychology in addition to these. One other thing that AIS is now doing is we have a whole team of CADIS people and assistive technology specialists. And it has been the greatest thing ever, because I realized the need for, as a TVI, especially a TVI that was doing, a dual that was mostly doing orientation mobility. I didn't really teach JAWS very often. And when I did teach JAWS or Zoom text or whatever, I felt like it was so infrequent that I had a student that needed it, that I felt like I was making it appear more difficult than it actually was. And I think that when we're trying to teach people and we're having to have a cheat sheet beside us and we hesitate, that it makes it look difficult. And I hate that. I remember like just being like, man, I feel like I'm making it appear difficult for my student, and they're going to perceive it's difficult to learn if I make it seem difficult to teach. So I thought it was really important that we got this assistive technology team up and going. And let me tell you, I thought I knew assistive technology somewhat till I got this team together. And I have found out I don't know assistive technology at all. Oh, speaking of assistive technology, since y'all are O&M, all O&M on here. This last week, so we're sponsoring a Cane Quest in Georgia. And there's this little town of Forsyth, Georgia, that is going to be where we're hosting it. And I went to them and I was meeting with their visitors bureau. They're all over it, by the way. And we're adapting for them for being so, helping us so much with this. They have a fox hunt. It's because it's nicknamed like Fox City. And they have these 8 fox that are throughout the town. And they're hidden, and it's like a scavenger hunt. We said, well, let us make your scavenger hunt accessible. And so we started looking into, the best way to make it accessible. And I was going to use Soundscape, didn't realize Soundscape at that moment had been discontinued. So we started looking into what other apps were out there and stuff. And, I knew Blind Square and all that. I don't know if anybody knows this. I just found, so I called my caddis and she says, oh, you really ought to look into Apple guide on Apple, that you can like drop points. I don't know if anybody knows that. I'd be interested to know if anybody else knows that. And she said, and on Android, it's called Treasure Hunt. I don't know. I just found that interesting because I didn't know. I still haven't had a chance to play with them. This was his last week. So, but I was like, I didn't know that was out there. So anybody else, if you ever get a chance to try it, I'd be really interested to know because they're free. So she says, yes.
Hey, Karen, it's coming up on 4 o'clock. I think if you're at a convenient place to stop, maybe we could stop here and open it up for questions.
I would love to do that. Yeah, I think I'm about done it. I'll snap through these.
Click through if there's something you want to
I'm just, you know what? And I'm just going to click in.
Yeah.
Just so everybody has these and they can go back and see it whenever. I think I've already said most of everything here anyway. Yep. Already said all this. I think by now I pretty much said everything about that. I'm probably pretty sure it's open. Y'all just go ahead and start asking questions.
Okay, that's great.
I'll just clicking through these so that everyone has them in case they need it. I don't know why I have this. Vision. Yeah, y'all know all this. These are the things we do.
It's great.
And there's me. Okay, there you go.
So, I think you need to stop share.
Oh, okay.
Top there.
Stop share. Got it.
There we go. You see the group has grown. We keep adding people. Michael's got a question, his hand up, but I'm going to take precedence just for one, Mike. Sorry. Here's the question. How do you see this model translating into a national service model? In other words, I mean, do you want to take over the entire world, or
No.
I mean, what do you see other companies starting like this around the country? Is this a model for service provision? What do you think?
That's a really good question, because people would say, what are you doing? People joke around and say to me, what are you doing trying to take over all the O&M across? And you know what? No, and I tell you the reason I say no on that is because I struggle to find high quality people as it is. And every contract that I accept, I don't take a contract on unless I think I can fill it. So there's a lot of contracts I don't take on, that's another difference between a staffing company. They'll take them on and then they'll try and find the people. I don't take it on unless I really think I can find someone for that area, because I feel like I now have an obligation. I've taken that on and I feel like I've got to fill that, because that's who I am. Because I also know that every school district or agency out there that I can't fill means that's someone out there that's not getting services that needs it, and I don't, and here I am, I'm the one that has signed the contract, said I'm going to do it. But if I can't, I want that agency to move on and find somebody else who can. So even if, and if I do accept one like that, I tell them right up, listen, I'll sign it and I'll sign this contract and I'll be looking for you. But if someone else comes along, there's another agency or you direct hire, I don't care, because the main goal is to get these individuals covered. So, we're right now, in 12 states. We're also doing, or 11 states, and maybe 12. I don't know if we're 11 or 12, honestly. And we are doing some remote in some other areas and I think we accepted one in Texas too, just as a remote, because we knew the person was really strong. Usually we don't do them unless if we know someone's really strong and isn't going to need much support and they've been around, we might accept something like that. And it's also easier to for us to support somebody on remote instruction. So remote we're sort of doing nationally. But for face-to-face, we're keeping only the face-to-face throughout the Southeast in those states for right now. We don't expand unless we have a lead in that area to be able to support the people around them. I don't see us being, I think another person could create the same sort of thing in another part of, the nation. Absolutely. Do I think it would be great? Absolutely. I support it, because and people say, do you consider so-and-so competition? I'm like, oh my gosh, there's not enough of us. I'll tell, what we talk like Nancy Pachisi. I don't know if y'all know her. She has a little company in Georgia, and we call each other up, say, hey, I don't have anybody to cover this. Do you have anybody to possibly cover this? Same with, in North Carolina, right? Like especially close to that North Carolina, Virginia line, we'll work with Envision and Kim Hudson's company. So we try, we don't think of ourselves as, we try to all kind of work together. I don't have hardly, I think I maybe have one person in North Carolina now, because it was someone who had been with me forever and wanted to stay with me. But I don't typically usually go too much into North Carolina unless someone really wants to work with me, because you've got Kim and Envision there, Kim Hudson's company, Equalize, and Envision there, and if they're able to cover the state pretty good, then I don't need to go in there and add more services. But if there's a school district that is like Charlotte, there's they can't find us anybody. They can't find us anybody. They can't find us anybody. But then I had a teacher that was moving to Charlotte. I was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and fill this. And they don't mind, because they knew they couldn't fill it either. So it's just like, there's no hard feelings. We just sort of all work together. So I'm more in support. I don't really think it's, I encourage others where there's not already an agency to set something up, where you're really meeting. You need to be doing it for the right reasons. My goal is to make sure everyone's receiving high quality services. That's why I don't worry about North Carolina, because there's other agencies there. But if there's not, and there's a lot of and now I say that there's so many that used to be more of the way, but now there seems to be need in every state that you go to. It's just, there's like, there's just not enough of us to go around. So it's really not.
Got
competition.
2 questions, one from Michael and then Vicky.
Okay.
Okay. What I want to ask you about is the way you handle the keeping track of the credentialing from state to state. And you say you're working with OTs and PTs as well as the categorical services of TVI and comms. The example that I will give is ACVREP is currently developing a certification which will be a specialty within the OT field for vision. And I could see some school districts coming to you and saying, can't you just give me one person who can handle this visually impaired student now that we have this new certification, where that might not be in the best interest of the student. And I'm curious how you deal with credentialing overlap as you're selecting your people and distributing them through the places you have contracts.
So a school district may ask for that, but that doesn't mean that if I'm not in favor of that, doesn't mean I have to give them that. I can just easily say, I'm sorry, I don't support that. If you need that and that's the person you need, you may need to go out and try and find and direct hire yourself. That's sort of pretty much that in a nutshell. You know, if it's something that I don't believe in or don't think that, if I think by doing something it's going to degrade the quality of services that person is going to get, it's not something I'm going to support or offer to the schools or agencies that I work with. So if that's what they really want to go with, then they're going to have to go. And then, you know, I'm sure there'll be other companies and that are staffing agencies that will say okay to that. Yeah, we'll find you one of those, but that won't be, you know, that if that's not in the best interest of the students involved, then that's not what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky?
Yes. Hi. Hi,
Hey.
Karen. I just have a what I think is a quick and maybe not simple, but quick question. And that is, I have an interest in, or I would like to talk more about contracting myself. And I was just wondering if it would be okay to contact you just to ask a few more detailed questions so we don't have to take up time here.
That's why, yeah, and I don't know if, I'll tell everybody my cell phone number again right now in case anybody
I
needs
put
to
it in
get
the
on
chat.
too.
I put it in the chat, Karen.
did
Oh,
you?
did you?
And
Good. Okay, good.
It's up at the top of the chat. And if you go, for those of you who have the chat window open, all the way down the bottom, there's those 3 little dots. If you click on those 3 tiny little dots, one of the choices is to save the chat all the way at the top so you can get that.
Okay.
But you're welcome to give it out again, Karen. I don't mean to cut you off, but just so you know,
Okay.
you have it already.
Yeah.
Now, I came in a little bit late, so I don't see your
You'll see
information
that? Yeah. Okay.
in my chat. So are you able to
I'll
put it in
I'll
the
tell
chat?
you it again. My
Okay.
my cell is 804
Mhm.
244 2000.
Thank you. And may I have your email?
Sure, it's K Walker. I'm going to give you the short version at AIS LLC.com.
Thank you so much.
Sure. No, and I get a lot of calls from people that are you know, talking, you know, just setting things up. A lot of the things I said in that PowerPoint are the things you're going to need to make sure you work through. And I also do recommend that whatever contract you do work up, that you do get it looked over by a lawyer.
Okay, yes.
Karen, this is Eileen. You also have a great website that people should check out too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really nicely done. Thank you.
That's,
it-
yes.
I just-
alliedinstructional.com.
What's the website? I'm sorry.
It's, alliedinstructional.com.
Thank you.
I have one question. When so as a school administrator, if I have a student come in who has a visual impairment and I don't have any vision staff, and are they the people who then call you to say, this is my situation? How can we
Yes.
work together? Okay.
Yes, yes. And sometimes the TVIs themselves will call me and I'm like, you need to get your director or someone to call me. You can, recommend them and tell them about us. But I don't, sometimes I ask my people to, the people that call and do that, I say, please talk to them first. I don't mind giving them a call and cold calling them like, hey, I hear you've got this student out there, but I try to encourage people to talk to the administration first and let them know, or have them reach out to me first.
Mhm.
And then I reach out to them. If they have
Okay, great. Thank you.
Rachel, I wanted to just open it to you if there was something you wanted to throw in here from your seated position as chair.
This has really been interesting. Thank you, Lucas. There's such an issue with service provision, and it seems like this provides such an alternative that could really work to expand services in the field. So I hope you might maybe share some more of that information with us, and maybe I could communicate with you another time about how we might talk more about that. Is that okay?
Absolutely. And one other thing I didn't mention earlier, that because it's not in my slideshow, because at the time I made that, it wasn't there. We are also now doing a lot of hybrid, where especially for the TVI work, where we may come in there and do the initial face-to-face, but where somebody is too remote to go out there every day. And it's offered, since COVID, I tell you what, it was a bad thing, but it really made us look at other ways to be productive with students and find out, some ways that we can do some of the instruction remotely. And actually it's brought, especially the school district personnel, paraprofessionals, parents, it's brought them all more into the mix in the team to make everybody closer and understanding what's going on with the students, because we've had to involve them in a lot more into the learning.
I want to take a moment, first of all, to thank Karen. We touched on this at SOMA. It's taken us a while to get it together, but it was well worth waiting for, and I really appreciate it, Karen. That's great.
Sure.
I also want to thank Rachel for being here as chair. And I also want to say, where else would this discussion happen outside of a conference, and even at a conference? And that's the value of this organization, SOMA. And so I would just encourage you to encourage your colleagues to join these talks. I would encourage Karen to give all of her O&M staff the second Monday of every month at 3 o'clock off. But
that's the thing. And that's the difference with contracting. If they're my employees, I can set that, but at contractors, I can encourage them, but I can't make them.
I know, I was just pulling your leg.
But my employees, my employees, I can make them.
All right, great. But this is a really great space on the internet. It doesn't happen often, but that's what we created OMSA for, is to be able to link all of us in the related professions together. And thank Eileen for being president to open this up, all of you for being here. And we are recording this. Karen, I'm not sure where you are on the 7 o'clock show, as it were, but if you can't make it, just let me know, or let Eileen know, and we'll rebroadcast this. That's fine. Yeah.
I can probably change our dinner to another night. Let me
just let us know.
I will.
No rush.
I will email you shortly. As soon as we get off here, I'll I'll email my husband, and I can tell you what, the two will be different because I rarely.
That's
do.
okay. That's
I'm not
great.
very good at following any scripts.
You were great. You're absolutely terrific. Any other
Yeah.
comments or questions from anyone else here on the call?
Well, if you come back tonight, Karen, if you could talk from the position of the administrator working with you in that situation, because I think that is an element that a lot of administrators don't understand how to go about getting specialized services, let alone if they even know what O&M is. So that's a question that'd be great that to see how you address that with those administrators and school personnel.
I'll tell everybody on here, one of the biggest things that I believe in is making sure that the administrators, if you want support from, this is when you're already in there in a school district, is if you're an O&M instructor in a school, invite your administrator along. I mean, try and get them to come to a lesson so they understand what O&M. When I go into IEP meetings, I always take in a whole inventory and lay it on the table and see, these are all the skills we need to get through. I try to use every opportunity when an administrator is sitting near me to give them information. I always go into an IEP meeting with the IDEA, with O&Ms to be taught in the homeschool and community. I just sort of have those things available, just sort of sitting there and just to try and because you never know when you might get a chance to sort of give them that information. So just sort of stays with me.
Good.
Well, Karen, is someone who spent the last 5 of my full-time working years as an LLC and hanging out a shingle for just the first time as a single practitioner starting an LLC. I want to compliment you on how absolutely focused and right on your notes for small providers like that were when you went through that section. It was very complete and very well done.
Thank you.
Righty. Great. Thank you all very much for coming. Come, if you'd like, come back at 7 and get a different perspective from the same person, which is real. Part 2. Thanks a lot, Karen.
All right,
Thanks,
sure.
Karen.
See y'all.
Sure. Thanks,
Everybody.
Bye.
I'll sign in tonight, Lucas, for the 7.
Great, good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, I think it went well, I think.
Yes, it did.
I've got another one on the line, by the way, so.
Okay, great. We'll
All
talk
right.
later.
Later. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.